Okay, so hi Julian, good morning. Hope you're good. So your experience covers trip to the Philippines to expose and go undercover as a paedophile for the ITV. It includes falling off a volcano. I didn't get more detail than that. But in terms of TV and that stuff, so a bit of background for myself. I actually, for my sort of work experience, I had the opportunity to be a cable basher for at BBC and ITV for Dancing on Ice and Strictly Come Dancing because I know some of the camera people there. So in terms of that, when I was speaking to the guys there, they told me that during lockdown, because they're freelance, they couldn't get any even like sort of any shorts or anything. So I was going to ask you, how has lockdown affected the nature of your work within the TV and media world?
So lockdown has had a massive effect on my world and my job. In January and February, just before lockdown, indeed into March, I was making a series for Channel 5 called The Mega Council Estate Next Door, which involved filming in Islington, on location, in people's homes, in crowds, at parties, at nightclubs. And then lockdown happened, and we luckily had enough material in the can to complete the series.
Okay.
Fortunately, I can edit myself on the Avid Edit system, and I've got an Avid Edit system at home. So I was able to actually edit the series from home, and that took me 2 months. So from the middle of March until early May, I was actually editing the program, so I could work from home, which is fine. But after that, I was in a bit of a pickle because we have a child here who's disabled. He's in the highly vulnerable category, so we're shielding him. As a result, I don't anticipate going out on location for the rest of this year. I don't think that the virus is going anywhere. I think there's going to be a second wave, and I need to be extremely careful that I don't go on location and bring the virus back. So what I've had to do is completely rethink my career. I've had a good sort of 15, 20 years, well, good 30 years altogether, but I've been quite busy as a freelancer for the last 15 years. So I've got some savings built up. But equally, one thing I'm very interested in is training. And something that occurred to me is doing training courses in media skills, in how to get into television via Zoom. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm training students on how to get into the media industries, in entry-level media skills. I'm teaching academics, presentation skills, and business professionals how to come across well on Zoom, Microsoft Teams, which now must-have skills and are going to be with us for, I think, for good.
Yeah, I mean, the nature of it, I've been speaking to like a range of people, and they've told me that there are like sort of two types of people when it comes to sort of presenting on Zoom and stuff. The people who thrive because they're in their home environment, they're more comfortable and whatnot. But there's others that actually they need sort of the human interaction for their sort of presentation to make sense to do well. So as everyone's been working from home, companies are probably looking at the permanent option when they're hiring new people, and they're going to give them incentive like, oh, you can work from home 2 days a week. So I was going to ask you, do you believe companies should make working from home like a permanent option?
It's inevitable. There are many reasons for it from both sides of the coin. On as far as the employee is concerned, then, you know, not to have to commute, especially in London, an hour and a half one way, battle through, you know, the underground or whatever to go into a potentially hot and sweaty office in the summer, and then battle back at the end of the day, wasting 2 or 3 hours a day and that money going back and forth isn't great. And I think what companies are finding is that people are actually more productive working from home. Obviously, from the business point of view, if they're paying less office rent, if they're downsizing their offices, and I think that's inevitable, that's going to happen, then it makes sense economically from the business point of view, as long as people are still productive, which they clearly are. I think there is a concern in terms of mental health, because fundamentally we're a pack animal, we are a tribal species, and we do need to be around other people. So I think there may be problems of isolation and people missing out on those social interactions you get in the office. But I suspect the pluses outweigh the minuses. Now, your earlier point about people being able to cope with Microsoft Teams and Zoom, etc., is very valid. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing these courses, because you can train in how to come across well on camera, how to come across well on a bit of, how to talk to a bit of glass like it's another person. You can train those skills. And there are also things you can do that can very quickly improve how you come across. For example, my frame at the moment, there's some depth to the shot. The lighting is okay on me. I'm kind of in focus. I've made my hair lovely this morning, as you can see. All these things can reflect either well or badly on your personal brand and how you come across and your professionalism. And I was watching the TV news just yesterday, actually, and an MP was sat very, very low on his chair, and he looked like this. It was absolutely ridiculous. And that reflected very badly on him, on his party, and the message he was trying to get across. So the fundamental point is that people are going to have to learn these skills. There's no doubt about it, because the world has changed. For better or worse, the world has changed into a world of remote working, operating through video, and people have to adapt and survive.
So the next question, you referenced mental health for a second, and this is actually the next point I was going to ask you, with sort of fears of redundancy and all the other madness that is going on currently. Would you say, as you said, you'd have to rethink your career, taken from that, would you say you've been able to thrive during lockdown and, maybe retouch old or new passions, etc.? Or has it proved to be more of a challenge than you initially thought so?
Well, for the last 10 years or so, I've lived quite a challenging existence, in that I'm a TV series producer. I live in Norwich, and there's very little television in Norwich these days. So I've been traveling first thing on a Monday morning to make television. So I've been to Aberdeen, I've been to Glasgow, I've been to Belfast, I've been to Southampton, if I'm lucky, London, which is only a couple of hours away, and then living somewhere with relatives if it's London, otherwise in a bedsit, or with friends if it's other places, and then come back on a Friday night. And that's a tough existence. It's a tough existence for a family man like myself. And then you're exhausted on a Sunday night, get ready to travel the next day. So it's been really quite lovely, to be honest, being at home with my family, spending quality time, kind of where I belong in a home situation. So it has made me rethink a little bit my perspectives and my priorities. And I've not had a very good work-life balance, to be honest, for the last 10 years, because as a series producer, you're responsible for a lot. There's a lot of pressure on you to deliver the series. And I do find myself, when you are away from home, working 16, 17-hour days, just because that's the way it maps out, because that's the demands of the job. And the fact you're away from home means it's more likely you're going to work those hours. So I am anticipating, hopefully, doing more training the next 10 years, or however long I've got left in the working world. And I'm doing a bit less telly because I do enjoy the training, and it's a bit easier, on my quality of life.
Yeah. We talk about a work-life balance. Now, what's interesting is society and corporations have sort of forced your hand in they believe that you should have a work-life balance. But what's interesting to me is that during lockdown, I feel like people are starting to realize their sort of their own power, and they've had time to think. So actually, I do believe that now, like you've yourself as a person has always become before the corporation, but they may come across, you must achieve a work-life balance. What about like your life first? So my last question would be, post-lockdown, I know you've mentioned a few points, but as a sort of overview, how does the professional working world look for yourself?
I think that the world has changed in terms of how we operate, and it's changed for everybody. And traditionally, there's always been a kind of, oh, you want to work from home tomorrow? Okay, yeah. Oh, the test match is on. Yeah. Oh, you want to work from home tomorrow? Oh, so you need to do some shopping for the wedding that's coming up. There's always been that kind of undercurrent of the working from home mentality. That's now changed. What businesses have seen is that people are productive when they work from home. What they've seen is that rather than people traveling an hour or an hour and a half commuting, they're actually spending a bit more time working each day, funnily enough, than in transit. Obviously, there's challenges from working from home, particularly from working mums, for example, with kids who aren't at school and all those difficulties of managing the demands of bringing up a family, etc., who may well be at home. But fundamentally, I think firms are realizing how productive people can be doing that kind of remote working, and indeed they're often happier than they were doing that long schlep into work and back again. So I think the genie is out of the bottle. I think it's with us to stay, and there is going to be an economic shock. There's no doubt about it, and a lot of people are going to be made redundant. I think it's going to take many, many years for that to pan out, and it's going to take potentially decades for the economic cost of this terrible crisis to be paid off. But fundamentally, the point I make to my older sons, who are desperate to get normality back, is that you can't bring dead people back. Ultimately, you can pay more taxes, and you can fix an economic situation. But if loved ones die, you can't bring them back, and that's got to be the priority. And if to achieve that, we need to not go down the pubs as much, not go into restaurants as much, not have our social life as much, then that's a price well worth paying.